hello, and welcome to my latest video, movie review, Past Lives, written and directed by Celine Song. What's it like? Is it any good? Should you spend your money? Well, stick around and you'll find out. Now, I went to see this at the East Dulwich Picture House, my favourite cinematic location, and I went with my favourite movie buddy, my son Joel, and we haven't been to see a movie for a while because he's been at university and now he's back, but anyway, we went. And when we come out of the film, as you know, if you've watched any of my previous reviews, we don't say anything for a little bit, and then we get in the car, and he says to me, "What did you think?" And I came out, so I got in the car and I said, fucking hated it, I thought it would never end. What did you think? He said, I loved it, I thought it was absolutely amazing. Now, as you know, I'm not a man who is given to changing his mind. There was a time in 1997, I think, when I changed my mind and I recorded it in my diary, but that was probably the last time. So we went to Whitstable yesterday. I don't know if you've ever been to Whitstable, lovely place. And we went for a long walk, 10.6 miles. Fuck me, I was knackered. Along the coast from Whitstable to Herne Bay. Stay with me, a little bit of a digression, but we will get there. We walked to Herne Bay, came back, God, we were tired. I mean, he's 35? He's 35 years younger than me. He was more knackered than I am. Anyway, we got back to Whitstable. We went to the Lobster Shack, very nice restaurant in Whitstable, if you've ever been. And one of the things about the Lobster Shack is during COVID, right, they introduced this system where you had to order on the app. So we got in there, we sat down at the table, and I thought, oh, for God's sake, I'm going to have to download the app. And of course, you haven't got Wi-Fi, so then you've got to switch on your mobile data and you download the app. And I'm scrolling through the bloody menu, and the place was empty. The waitress came up and said, are you ready to order? Maybe you had to be there to enjoy the joke. Anyway, back to the film. Because the reason I'm mentioning this digression of the trip to Whitstable is that we spent about 2 hours talking about this film, Past Lives, and what we liked about it, mainly from him, what I didn't like about it, mainly from me. And I ended up changing my mind and decided, actually, I really liked the film. Now, there's a few reasons for that. First of all, it's a Korean film. I suppose I ought to say that. Now, is that relevant? I kind of said to Joel it was, and he said, why does that? Why do you raise that as a thing? Because I was saying, just because it's in Korean doesn't make it profound. And he said, what are you talking about? It's just a film with Korean actors mostly talking Korean with subtitles. I mean, what's the big deal? So that, again, I changed my mind about that. He was right, as he often is about movies. I'll be honest. And it's about two people, a Korean lady and a Korean man, and she moves to New York after having known him for a very short while as kind of 12-year-olds, and then they meet up, and is there or isn't there a kind of romance, and what will happen as a consequence of that? And that essentially is what the film is. I mean, that is the plot. And I was saying to Joel that many of you will have heard of Peter Green, wonderful guitarist in Fleetwood Mac, in one of the early iterations, the early iteration of Fleetwood Mac. And one of the things that they used to say about Peter Green, which I kind of understood but didn't kind of understand because I can't play the guitar, and that is, it's the gaps between the notes that you have to listen to. In other words, it's what Peter Green didn't play that was as good as and important as what he did play. And this film kind of made me think of Peter Green because it's about the gaps in the film. It's about what you don't see as opposed to what you do see. Now, most films these days, not all films, but most films these days, they don't like gaps. They like to fill every space. They like to fill every silence. They like to fill every image. So they don't want you to fill in the spaces. Perhaps they're worried you get bored, or you're going to think of something else, or you're going to decide that there's plot holes, or whatever it is. But this film, it's the gaps between what you see that is so important. And it reminded me also of Babette's Feast. And if you know Babette's Feast, was a Danish film based on a short story by Karen Blixen. It's about love. It's about unconsummated love that goes away and then it comes back. and is it consummated? I don't mean consummated in a sexual way, Nigel. It's not that kind of review. But it's about, do these two people get together and do they envelop, do they share their love, or do they not? And again, Babette's Feast is about the spaces in between. It's about what doesn't happen as much as what does happen. And Past Lives, it's a very understated film. It's a very quiet film. It's a very peaceful film. It's not a loud film. It's not an in-your-face film. And John was saying one of the things that really annoys him is when you see a film and there's a message, and there's this deep underlying message, whether it's about the human condition or whether it's about, I don't know, existentialism or existentialism, or, you know, like I used to say, this film is really about Brexit. You know, I said, did you ever see my review? I think of Dunkirk. I said it's a Brexit film, and so many films these days, there's a message and they want you to have a message. I don't think there's no underlying message in this film. It's about two people or three people, because there's a third person involved, and it's what you see is what you get. In other words, it does what it says on the tin. There is a relationship, and then there is a gap, and then there is a relationship, and then there is a gap, and then there is a relationship. And where does the relationship go? And the other thing about so many films these days is that they have a happy ending, but they also have an ending where they kind of tie up all the loose ends. Now this film, it doesn't have a conventional happy ending. I'm not going to say it doesn't have a happy ending, because it sort of does and it sort of doesn't. You need to see for yourself and decide whether or what you think the ending says about these characters and what happens afterwards. And one of the most powerful things about this film is that you do wonder what happens afterwards. You do care about these people. They're not in your face. They're not shoving messages down your throat. They're not, you know, there's no great writhing sex scene. It's not that kind of film, Nigel. It's an understated, quiet, romantic film without a lot of physical activity. But everything is in the mind, everything is in the eyes, everything is in the ears, everything is in the mouth, because that's, if you like, that's where love really lies. Love doesn't just lie between the sheets. Lots of, you know, maybe sometimes people think it does. Maybe I had a time in my life when I think it does. And maybe as you get older, you realize that love doesn't need to lie between the sheets. Love is here. 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 Love is what makes the world go round. Makes me sound like Woody Allen. Oh, can't quote Woody Allen these days, but it's that kind of film. It makes you, not because there's a message, but it leaves you thinking, it leaves you wondering, it leaves you admiring. And yes, I was wrong. Okay, I said I didn't like it. I was wrong. I changed my mind. Joel, not so much he persuaded me. I feel like I persuaded myself. I rethought my original view about the film, and I decided that my immediate instinct, which has often got me into trouble in the past, particularly when I opened my mouth without thinking properly, my immediate instinct about this film was that I didn't like it. When I thought about it more, I decided, yes, I loved it. So, do you want to see an understated, quiet, peaceful, gentle, no big fight scene film about Korean people in love? Well, if you shouldn't, or if you don't, you should, because you would really enjoy it. And if I can just say, if you compare it to A Haunting in Venice, like Kenneth Branagh's latest opus, what's the opposite of an opus? An underpuss. Then this film is a masterpiece, and A Haunting in Venice is a pile of crap. So, Past Lives. Should you go and see it? Yes. Is it worth your money? Yes. Is it any good? Yes. I changed my mind, and Julian says he loved Past Lives. Thanks for watching. See you next time.